Hey, this is Andrew Brown. In this video, we're going to take a look at using Amazon Bedrock, specifically using the project knowledge base to implement RAG. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not an easy thing to do, so we'll do our best to try to figure it out. There is a programmatic way to do it, but it's so much work, we're not going to do it that way. Competing products make it so easy to set up RAG, but AWS has made it overly complicated with their design here. But that's my complaints, but let's continue on. So we are going to knowledge bases, and we're going to create a new one. If you're worried about spend, do not launch this up. I noticed that when we had spun it up, and maybe this is because Baco spun it up, not me, but we had like an $80 spend here, $86 spend. So I think he turned it on. I left it on for a few days with OpenSearch. Now you can use other things besides OpenSearch, which I've yet to try, but maybe that's something that we might want to do here. But notice here we have different options like S3 or a web crawler to grab information from the internet. I'm going to stick with S3, and that's where our data is going to go for now. So we will work with that. We'll go ahead and hit next. Actually, before we do that, we're going to need an S3 bucket. And I think I've already created one, but in case you don't know how to make a bucket, I'm just going to go ahead and delete mine and make a new one here. So I think I made this one here yesterday and I didn't do anything with it. I was really tired. I just decided to quit and carry on the next day, which is what is today. We'll go here and we'll make a new bucket. And yeah, I'll call it rag again, my rag, and just put some random numbers here on the end so I don't have any conflicts. You do the same. And so now we have our bucket. I'm just going to give this a hard refresh because these UIs do not update in real time and they get confused. So we have Amazon S3. We're going to go next. We're going to browse our source. We're going to go ahead and choose my rag. Okay, for this account, we're going to use default for chunking. Chunking is how you break up your document. And by the way, like we were using, was it the Bedrock SageMaker, Bedrock AWS workshops. And they have one here for RAG. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is incomprehensible the amount of stuff that's going on in it. So yeah, under here we have RAG, right? And there's some information here, like they're explaining what the pipelines look like. But I really do not like the way they implemented this code. They shoved a lot of the infrastructure into this utility, right? They should have wrote CloudFormation or CDK or something else to make it really easy. I mean, I suppose I could do that as well, but that's a lot of work. And for what we're doing here, it's not that important. But yeah, let's go ahead and try to figure this out the best we can. So I'm going to do Amazon Bedrock. We're going to drop this down. We have some options for KMS. And so we need to choose an embedding model. We're going to choose Titan Text Embeddings 2. I believe that's the one that they're using. They just say Titan, but I'm going to use 2, as that is the newer one. Embeddings are important because if you're going to use a vector store, you need to then convert the data into embeddings and to store it there. And then we have our vector database choices. So here we could use... we have OpenSearch Serverless, then we have OpenSearch Serverless, Aurora, MongoDB Atlas, Pinecone, Redis, Enterprise Cloud, a bunch of options here. So I'm going to stick with OpenSearch, and so this will create it for us. We'll go ahead and hit next. And again, if you are worried about spend, do not start this up. I do not care if there's a free tier. I just had terrible spend with SageMaker Canvas, and I just know that in some of these areas, like I'll show you, this is SageMaker Canvas. I literally spent $349 in like 3 days because I forgot to close something. So, you know, just be careful here and maybe just watch for this one and see if we can even accomplish it. So we'll go ahead and create this knowledge base. It's going to take a little bit of time, and so we'll wait for OpenSearch Serverless to create. It does create a serverless instance, so we might want to go over to OpenSearch here. Service. And it's kind of similar in the sense like Azure AI Search, which is the RAG version for Azure, also uses a search engine kind of in the same way. But I believe that it's going to show up under here. And so it was just showing an older one. I'm not sure why. We'll go back to our dashboard. And so we want to be very careful. Like I deleted the knowledge base, but it doesn't delete the serverless storage. I don't think this costs anything, so I'm not worried about it, but I'm going to go ahead... Just because I had recent unexpected spend, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. Okay. So this one is now there. If we go back here, it's still creating. I'm not sure what it's doing, but we'll give it a moment to figure that out, okay? So I'm trying to remember how to use this thing, and Normally the blogs are really good, but you go here and they really just get lazy here. They say, yeah, create it here, and then they just skip the entire middle part, which is a bit frustrating because, I want to just get working with this as quickly as possible. But there's things that we need to configure, like the index, and so that stuff is a little bit tricky. So let's go over to here, and this is now created. So we have our open search index, but we're also going to need some files. And so I think what we can do, because there are files here in here, these ones here, right? I'm not sure what these are, but let's go ahead and open this up and see what it is. And these are PDFs, I believe. Okay, and so there's some kind of, I'm not sure what this is about. Okay, but it is Amazon and AWS related content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to download these, and they're just the shareholder letters for AWS for the last 4 years. And so we'll download those. Okay, so just download each of those, and then I'm just going to download them off screen here. Just give me a moment. All right, so I just downloaded them all to a folder there. And so let's just take a look at what they're doing. So download the data, and then here, yeah, they're just downloading them, then upload them to the bucket. And here they're just placing them into the root of the bucket. So we'll go into here, and then I'll just drag these on over. So we hit upload. Yeah, then we can drag them here. Let me just get a new window open here. I've downloaded them somewhere on my desktop. Just give me one moment. Here we go, and we'll drag them on over. Now, I think that they renamed the files. Before we do anything, let's just take a look at what they did. And so they renamed these. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that really quickly, because they, I don't think that the name has to match exactly, but, if we're going to do this, we might as well just do it exactly the same way and have less issues, right? Yeah, so that's 22. We have 2021. We have 2020. We have 2019. Okay, and so there we have our 4, and we're going to go over here. I'm going to upload. Oh, you know what I noticed? They have double PDF on there. I'll just take off those double .pdf extensions. You got to be really careful when copying and pasting. Always double, triple check as much as you can. There we go. And we'll go ahead and hit upload. And so we are now uploading those files there, and they are uploaded. Let's continue on and see what they're doing. So those files are now uploaded. So initialize open search serverless configuration, which includes the collection, the ARN, the index name, the vector field, the text field, the metadata. Initialize the chunking strategy. I mean, we already told it how we wanted to chunk. Initialize the S3 configuration, which will be used to create the data source object later. Initialize the Titan embeddings, which apparently that's already happened. So some of this has been configured already automatically for us. But let's go take a look at the open search service. And so they have collections. I think they had some mention here of a collection, right? So we'll click into this. Are we in collections right now? I think we are. Yep. And we would need an index, but it looks like it's already created an index for us. Okay. And we have a couple fields, so maybe that's chunking the fields, right? It's really hard without having to go through completely all of this, but just take a look here. We have, chunking. And the engine type is fast, and it's using Ulyssean, whatever. So these are things that we can choose as we're setting up these as we go here. Again, I'm just trying to visually try to map the information and try to figure it out. But here, obviously, we have our JSON object. So maybe what we're looking at here is that some of this information can be set up here, because it is saying the field, the vector field, right? And, maybe some of that is here, right? If we hit add vector field, yeah, so we have those options, dimension, dot product, things like that. And again, just trying to match them up, right? So it's not exactly matching. That's totally fine. We'll continue on here. Okay. So yeah, this is whatever. Here we have our knowledge base. It's creating it. So this is doing it all through code. Again, they should do this through infrastructure. I'm not sure why they're doing it this way. Then they're getting the knowledge base. They're creating a data source, which is S3. We don't need to do that. It's already done that for us. It gets the data source. Ingestion job. So that sounds like a way for us to ingest data into our actual service, right? Or into OpenSearch. So somewhere here, there must be a way to do that. Or if it's not in here, then maybe it's in the knowledge base interface here. So we click into this. Is there a way for us to start an ingestion job? So let's click into this. It does not show it here. And we have like sync history. So I would imagine that would be like something that would have to do with the ingestion. If we edit this, what happens? Nothing. They could have made this clear, but you can see there's very few tutorials on how to do this. So let's just carefully look at the code and maybe we can figure it out ourselves. So here, ingestion job, data source. So here it's saying start the job based on the data source. Let's see, again, I'm trying to do this visually, but ingestion job. Knowledge base, AWS. Tutorial. Because all I want to know, if we can do this somewhere in the interface, and that's the reference information. So let's try the docs knowledge base, AWS, docs. And maybe somewhere in here, they might give us some instructions. Okay, so we create that. Wow, this is hard to figure out. Give me a moment. I'm just going to kick around here till I can find something that's useful, okay? All right, so it definitely is this syncing thing. I think that's the ingestion job. And so it says here in Bedrock, left-hand pane, knowledge base, in the data source section, sync, right? So we're here, and we'll go to here, right? And then we have data source down below here, right? So you go here and then do that. All right, not the best interface. And so now what I imagine is that it's bringing in those files. Why they couldn't do that in their blog post, I don't know why, but we'll give it a moment there to figure it out. I have no idea how long it would take. There's another thing that's going on here, which is the fact that there are PDF files. So those PDF files have to be converted, or there's a term, Azure likes to use it. It's Azure AI Search. It's one of their features. If you go to pricing here, I just remember it. And we call that, I probably have it in the slides here, but they call it, well, they're not showing it here. Azure AI Search. Maybe this product here. Oh, they changed the page on me, so I can't show you what it is, but it's basically extraction or conversion. There's a name for it, data crunching or something. And so what that means is like the PDF has to be parsed and then turned into text or a format that we'll be able to store in here. And so that's just happening seamlessly for you. So I imagine there's probably other data types that we could use, maybe PowerPoint, maybe Word files, things like that. Not exactly sure. But did it finish syncing? It seems like it did. How do we know? I'm not really sure. Let's click into here. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we can start working with this. So configure retrieval and response to customize the search strategy for your knowledge base. Click that icon, this one here, I guess. All right, so we have some options here. Let's go ahead and select a model. And we'll just stick with Premier. Actually, I personally prefer Co here, but we'll just stick with Premier here for a moment. So how many documents are available in our knowledge base? I don't expect it to know that because it's all chunked data. Let's see what happens. Now, a lot of rags, what they'll do is they'll show, yeah, source detailed information. And so it's showing us chunks, and it must be coming from that here, right? Yeah, and so you can see right now it's referencing that, and so we have now accomplished RAG, okay? I think that we can integrate RAG a few ways, like if we were here to select a model. I mean, it's the same interface, it's just somewhere else. We go to Cohere here. I'm not sure if it would work with Cohere, but we'll try it. And yeah, I do not see the options here. I was hoping that we would see it. But maybe this is something that we would see more with agents. So like in agents, when you create an agent, and we'll look at this in a separate video, there is a way to attach a RAG. So yeah, I guess we're kind of done here for now. So I think what I'll do is I'll just delete this because I feel like we've accomplished our RAG. Well, first, before we move on, let's just take a look at what else we have here. So they have, this whole section's RAG. We have create documents, manage the knowledge base, retrieve, generate. So here, because with RAG, there's different ways that you can implement it, but I'm not sure if they're doing other RAG strategies. So we type in RAG strategies. I'm not sure which one will show it to us. But yeah, there's like all different ways that you can retrieve information. You know, like infinite combinations, because if you just remember what RAG is, it's just about getting external data from a data source, bringing it back, and then injecting it into the prompt or the context window before it returns a response, right? So, you know, a RAG could be going out to the internet and getting data. A RAG could be going to a vector search or vector store. A RAG could be going to an SQL relational database. It could be going to a document database. It could be going to a knowledge base. It could have all these strategies, how it works with the data before it brings it back. It could re-rank it, do all these things. So there's an infinite amount of patterns, and these are kind of supposed to represent that. They call it fully managed RAG, which is not very clear, but you know, I just want to know, is there something here that is of interest that we want to know? I don't think so. They're showing how to use it with LangChain. So LangChain is a great way to, and same with the Llama Index, a great way to set up RAG. But it's confusing because AWS kind of conflicts with these services by having their own agents and things like that, but I guess they always want to have their own variant. And so, you know, could be interesting going through a LangChain example, but what I've been finding with LangChain and also Llama Index is that the APIs right now are changing so much that I could try to use this code and it just probably won't work. So I'm not sure how well maintained this is and if we want to even bother going through this. Let's go to the top here and just take a look. Because if this one's already connecting to an existing one, it might not be so bad. So here we're installing LangChain. And then we are getting the Bedrock client, okay. And then we have this retrieve function. And here we're specifying the knowledge base. So you know what? Maybe we'll try this one. And it doesn't really matter. We could also do it with Claude. It doesn't really matter to me. Version 3. So this is just suggesting that it's an older one, but I think the process here is very similar. I wouldn't mind using Claude Haiku 3. So let's go ahead and try this one. And so we'll go over to SageMaker as per usual. Amazon SageMaker here. And Studio. And by the way, when you click Studio, it doesn't cost you any money to launch this thing, even though it's very similar to Canvas. And Canvas is such a terrible product anyway. It barely does anything of use. So we have this here. We're going to go to running instances. And you got to remember to turn these off. Like, I keep forgetting to turn these off, and that's kind of my own mistake there. But I'm going to go ahead and open this up if I can here. It's because most of the videos I've been doing them back to back. So I'll go here. There we go. And we'll open that up. I'll probably make another video just to remind people to turn off these here because I just do every video one after another, so I might not be turning them off. Okay, so we have this one open. We're going to make a new one for RAG, and we already set up our RAG, right? So we'll go here and make a new file or new notebook, and this one will be called RAG with haiku. Okay. And so I'll bring that over here. And we'll go down here and we'll just start to bring things over. So it's using LangChain of a very specific version. And the reason why they're fixing a version is because I was saying earlier that it changes a lot and maybe they just didn't want to update their code. But, and this one's specifically locking to a specific version, but we'll go ahead and do that. Now, there's LangChain and there's LangChain AWS. And normally you'd have to install both, but they're only doing one. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a go and see if that works. Okay, and if we want, we can just restart our kernel really quickly here. So we go here and just say kernel, restart. And we'll see how far we can get through here. Here they're doing Bodo 3, Bodo core. So you've been seeing me do this every single time. I don't know what the difference between the percentage and the exclamation mark is. Percentage versus exclamation in Jupyter Notebooks. What's the difference? Calls out to a shell in a new process while is associated with the notebook. So by itself has no lasting effect since the process change directory immediately terminates, changes the current directory of the notebook process, which is lasting. Okay. I don't understand how that would impact us, but that's fine. So I don't know what the store R is, but we'll go ahead and run that. Never seen that before. Yeah, what is store R? Okay. That could come in handy at one point. Restart the kernel. We did do that already. And so here we're going to do IPython. Again, if you're doing this locally, you'd have to install additional things. Now we're doing this again, and I think they're also doing this in SageMaker as well. So we're not going to have any problems running it here. And so we're going to do our imports. And we'll grab this part next. So I'm not sure why we're printing the session, but we can totally do that. Oh, we're just setting pretty print. Okay. And so we create a Bodo 3 session. Again, not sure why we need to even do that. We have our region. Not sure why we have to do that either. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that out because we didn't do this for other ones, right? Just for setting this stuff up here. Let's just go here for a moment and take a look. Yeah, we literally just do this. So I would rather... Yeah, we'll just simplify it to be exactly that. We don't need this or this. And pretty print's fine, but I don't really need that right now. Until we need it, I'm just going to ignore it. We don't even need Bodo core here. We don't need pretty print, and I don't need JSON. Well, we'll leave JSON in. There's a high chance we'll be using that. So we'll go down here to the next step, and we have our so we have our client. We're not doing any kind of chat. It's printing out the region, again, which I don't care about. Maybe they're doing that because if you're in the different region than your thing, then you'd have run into an issue, which is obvious, but we're doing everything in US East 1, so make sure that you're doing that as well. We'll change this over to client. So here, we're going to retrieve some text. I just like to clean this up so it's a little bit easier to read. Our retrieval configuration set up for number of results, which is up here, which is defaulted to 5. We have hybrid, we were passing our query, and then we have our knowledge base ID. So then it says, make sure you have your knowledge base. Okay, we already do. So what is Amazon doing in the field of generative AI? That kind of makes sense if we are hitting it up that way. Where is that knowledge base ID getting set? Nowhere. So here we have to go grab that value. I'm not sure if it's telling us explicitly about that, but it's very clear that we have to do that. So I'm going to make my way over to Bedrock. And I'm going to go here to knowledge base, wherever that is. All right, and so somewhere in here, there should be that. If we click into this, there's our knowledge base ID. So we're going to copy that knowledge base ID, bring it over here, and I'm just going to go and put it on a new line just so it's a bit easier to look at. So we'll just say KBID. I like how here it's like lowercase, and then up here it's a different one. I'm not sure why they do that. So we have that. Yep, that makes sense. And so is that all we need, really? Let's go here and take a look. Initialize your knowledge base before querying. Yeah, we did that. And then that's their pretty print there. So I guess we could bring back pretty print. I, again, personally like it when these things are close together, so it's a little bit easier to see what's going on. So I'm going to bring this down to a new line. Right? And we'll just take this here and have that set there. And we'll run and see what we get, right? I think we already ran that. I'm going to just run it again. And we have an error. Bedrock runtime object has no attribute retrieve. Okay, so let's go ahead and look up Bedrock. Bodo 3. And so maybe it's changed since it's last used. Retrieve. Okay, we'll go back over to here for a second. Let's go back and take a look at this again. Because maybe there's something wrong here. So we have the client, right? And then you have Bedrock agent client. So we have an agent runtime and then a regular runtime. So we have a little bit of differences here. Now they do set all these things here. I don't care about that. So we'll go here and we'll set client, and then we have agent client. It's kind of interesting that it's doing it through the agent. It's almost like we are starting to work with the agent programmatically. I'm not sure. So we have this. And let's go back over to our code here. And so probably what's happening is that one is calling the agent. So this one is calling the agent for sure. Okay, so we go back to this one and we're going to copy it and we'll paste it in here. And so now we'll run this. Bedrock runtime has no attribute. Well, we changed it over to agent client, right? So that should be less of an issue. So we'll do this. This. Bedrock runtime has no attribute retrieve. Well, still saying client here, right? So I'm not sure what's going on here, but what I'm going to do is go ahead. It doesn't normally do that, but we'll go ahead and restart the kernel, and we'll just walk our way down here and try this again. Sometimes that's just how it goes. You know, you'll have to do things multiple times to get it to work properly. So we have client and agent client, right? And this clearly says agent client. We'll make sure this file is saved. We'll run this again. Right? And now we'll run this one. So here it says, calling the retrieve operation, not authorized to perform retrieve on resource to knowledge base because no identity policy allows the Bedrock retrieve action. Okay, so it sounds like maybe there's something we need to configure for that to work. So we'll go back over to knowledge base. And I wonder if there's like an identity or something attached to it. I don't know why the status, oh, it's ready there. And so there is a service role, right? If we click into this, I mean, we're able to retrieve here, so I don't know why we wouldn't be able to retrieve elsewhere. I like how these are all customer managed. And we have invoke the model, allow access, list the bucket. So give me a moment. I'm going to see if I can figure out where this error is coming from. Okay, so I'm asking O1 preview, which by the way has been really good at helping me out. And here it's suggesting that maybe it's the SageMaker execution role, which is the thing that would control the actual notebook. That makes sense because it has its own permissions, right? And maybe what we could do is find that. Now, does it actually list that out? It does right here. Okay, so that is really clear. So what we'll do is we'll just copy that name here, and we'll go over to roles. That was really nice to not have to stare at it for a long time and figure it out. So go here, and there's our role. And so we need to add some permissions here. The only thing I don't know, we'll add an inline policy here. The only thing I don't know is, like, can we just restart? Do we have to restart the for it to take effect? I don't know. So I'm just looking for ChatGPT. Here we go. And so it's suggesting this as their permissions. We don't really need a SID. We don't have to have a SID in here. And so here we are granting very specific access to retrieve for that knowledge base. We'll go ahead and hit next. And we'll just say knowledge base access. We'll create that policy. And so now our SageMaker notebook has access. Now, how would it reload that? I don't know. We could just try it again. I really don't think it's just going to take effect. But we'll try. Oh, it did. Okay. Wow, that's awesome. And so now we run it. And so now we're getting back JSON. It's printing it out. So you can see that it's talking about the customer reaction to what we've shared thus far, et cetera, et cetera. And it's referencing those documents. So there you go. We are utilizing RAG. So I'm just curious, what else do we have here? Because we achieved this. Here they're extracting out the text so that it's a little bit more clear. We can do that. I don't really care. But let's just do that really quickly. So we'll paste this in here, and then I'll just put it right after here because we don't need to have two cells for that. And we'll run this. Okay, and so same thing. We already kind of knew that we had that. And maybe what they're going to do is, yeah, that's what I thought was next. They're going to put it back into the prompt because the idea is that when you grab things from your RAG, you want to load them back into your prompt so that they understand that context. And so since we're using, this is Haiku, we're using these XML tags so that we can tell, like, this is the context, this is the information that we pulled from our RAG, right? And then our question that we wrote is going to go here. So that seems pretty good. We'll go ahead and grab that. I want to consistently stick with the conventions they have here, like prompt data. And then we'll go down here. I mean, here it's talking about using Mistral. I thought this would have been for Haiku, right? But we'll take a look here. So I don't really want to use Mistral, so we'll just continue on here. Well, this actually uses it directly, right? But here they're going to use, oh, now we're down to LangChain. I didn't think we'd be using LangChain. Did we specify this up earlier? We did, right? Okay, so what we're seeing here is just like the normal way that you would call it, right? With the API, right? This is just like a normal way that you would use it with Bedrock. And so the next way is with, I don't think we need to run that because we've done enough prior. But this one is with the LangChain integration with Haiku, which is what I kind of prefer. I'm starting to get pretty good with LangChain, to be honest, because I've been building some little projects on the side here. And so we'll see if we can bring this in here. But normally what you would do for LangChain is you'd have to install a very specific type of intermediate package, right? So here it says, for example, replace imports for LangChain with base model 1. And so this might have to do with the compatibility versions of things here. I'm not sure. So I'm just carefully looking at this here. So what I don't know, like, if this is like an old, like if their API is not up to date with the latest one. But we'll carefully read here. So so it says here, as of LangChain core, LangChain uses Pydantic version 2 internally. Was a compatibility of 1 and should no longer be used. Please update the code to import Pydantic directly. Okay, so what I'm going to do, type in LangChain Bedrock example, because maybe the LangChain one has a more up-to-date version. They're pretty good about that. You're currently on a page documenting Amazon Bedrock text completion. And it depends if we want chat completion. And technically that's what we do want is chat completion. But I'm specifically interested in this part. The like the knowledge base. Let's go back here and take a look here again. So yeah, I'm not sure. We'll just have to go ahead and ask ChatGPT here and see if it can just figure it out for us. It'd be really nice if it can. I'm not sure if it can figure it out, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. All right, so yeah, it was saying maybe replace this with Pydantic because it's using it directly now. It seems like we'd also have to install Pydantic. But we're not using the model here per se. Yeah, and so it's making me think that what's happening here is that maybe internally AWS is not, their code is not up to date. And so that's why they're using a fixed version. If your code relies on Pydantic v1 features, use this instead. But that's not going to help us here, right? So, yeah, I'm not sure if we can even finish this. I mean, again, we could go fix it to the older version, but personally, I use Llama Index. I don't use LangChain. And if it's not going to work here, I don't think it's worth our time. But let's just take a look and see what it does. So here we are bringing in the chat conversation, right? We define it like this is, you know how we do the Bedrock client? It's a very similar process where it creates a client. And then here we have the retriever, which is like the function that we kind of created, but it's already here. And then you call the retriever through the API and it does something very similar. And then you are injecting it a very similar way. So yeah, nothing too complicated. But the nice thing with this is like, it's very easy to have a continuous conversation going on with LangChain, whereas you'd have to make an additional function here with Bedrock to have a continuous conversation. But let's go back here and take a look and actually just finish this off maybe with the Bedrock version because we know that one's going to work because we've done it so many times. Even though it's not that exciting, let's go ahead and do it anyway. So we did this prompt here, and so we'll grab this, and I guess I'll use Minstrel. I didn't really want to use Minstrel, but that's totally fine. And so, and again, you know, if you're worried about spend, just don't do anything. Just watch, okay? So we'll go ahead and run this here. Prompt data is not defined. It is not ran. That's why. Okay, that's fair enough. And we'll do this one. We'll go down below and I don't like this mess of code. We're just going to go ahead and grab our another one, like maybe from Zero Shot here. I'm sure we have a bunch of nice formatted code somewhere here, like this one here. Yep. So grab this and we'll just change it out to be what we want. So we want, I guess, Minstrel here. And the rest can be taken out. The body's here, so we'll just get the payload here like this. Like that. And I mean, we could just literally paste it in here in one go, and it's a bit nicer here. We don't have to have two separate things. Okay, and so we'll just run that. That should work. There we go. And as per usual, we'll go ahead and grab our code down below. And we'll run this. And we'll run this. We could put it as one line. I don't know why we don't. The body might be a little bit different here because we're using Minstrel. I'm not exactly sure what it returns back, but let's go ahead and do this. And so here it is going to be output. Looks the same as before. 0. And then we have text, right? Looks it's the same. Okay, what was the problem? Outputs. It's outputs. Okay. There we go. So Amazon is investing substantially in large language models, et cetera, et cetera. So there, we have accomplished RAG. And yeah, there are other ones here, but they're basically just derivatives, and they're not. This is quite the mess of a lab. Okay, so we'll consider this one done, and I'm going to go ahead and download this RAG example here. We'll download that, and we'll go over to GitHub, AWS examples. That's Azure examples. Don't have a whole lot there. I have to really get back on all the Azure code here. We'll go ahead and hit period here, and I'll make a new folder in Bedrock here, and that. And again, if you just don't want to go through all this code, I tell you at the end of the videos, it's kind of useless, but if you want to save yourself some time and you don't need to know this in depth or implement it directly, then you can just run it and have confidence that this code at least works, and then pass it on to a teammate if they're just trying to implement this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll directly upload this. Give me a moment.